Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is WeatherBrains episode number 622. This is the pre-show, that magical time of the show where we share boring personal stories, humorous anecdotes, and occasionally say outrageous things. And we are getting set to do 3 shows in 1 week. Wow.
Is that a record, James? Or is that just Tyler?
I think, to my knowledge, we probably did this once or twice, but it's been a while. So, and what we're doing, we're going to record the Christmas week show this week and the New Year's week show this week. And that Monday nights happen to be Christmas and New Year's. So we'll just kind of take a couple of weeks off after this. Of course, naturally, you know what happens. We wind up with a winter storm on my week off. It always happens. Always happens. So, Kim, how cold is it going to get in Oak City?
It'll get pretty chilly. I mean, we'll get below freezing, so that has everybody here pretty excited. That's pretty much winter here. Anytime it gets below freezing, probably similar there too. I mean, people are pumped.
Saw one of your local meteorologists forecasting. He had a Christmas day planner going 6 days ago.
Yeah, that was really great.
Did
you see the same station? There's a meteorologist in that same station who was trying to downplay that very forecast. Wasn't that great?
Yeah, I sent that little email out. I thought it was interesting that so you got one meteorologist at the same station doing a Christmas day planner, and then somebody in the same operation tweets, "Nobody knows what the weather will be like on Christmas Day this far in advance." So that's awesome. It is a strange world we live in. And you know, I made an executive decision today because anytime there's snow or ice or cold or anything forecast, or not, even if we're not forecasting it, people start fighting. I mean, they start fighting and cussing, and it's just brutal. And I made the decision today, between now and Christmas Day, I am not going to get involved. I'm not going to defend ourselves. I'm just going to let the keyboard Mets have it. You guys just have it. I'm not going to say a word. This is the season of peace and joy and happiness, and I'm not going to get involved in your insanity here. So and it distracts from my time. It's time I don't have to fool with it. So you can post your 384-hour deterministic snow maps all day long, and you won't hear a peep out of me. So that's my Christmas gift to the world.
James has given up.
Well, it might be better. It might be more productive. I sometimes wonder if when we find these crazy things on the internet, on social media, and we spread them as a means of trying to downplay them, we're actually just spreading them like spreading them.
Yes.
We become the vector of disease transmission in a way of speaking.
You've hit the nail on the head, Kim. I think that they're getting the attention that they really want, and their products are being disseminated. Even if we put a big red X through there, they still know that it's their product. And I'm just going to stay out of it today. Goodness, let me see if I can pull up the engagement numbers. Because the first thing, I get up in the morning before 5 a.m. with no sleep, and the first thing you see, well, this guy says it's going to snow a foot on Christmas Day, and you're saying it's not. What's the matter with you?
What's the matter with you?
Yeah, no, and that's what they say, and it's like, you just want to. The natural human reaction is to go in there and to defend the science and defend what's right and defend the cause and defend. But I am not going to go there. I'm not going to waste my time responding to this stuff. I've made that executive decision, so I'm sorry. And some people say, well, this is the reason I like to come to your Facebook page is to watch you, hit these creepers back. But I'm not going to do it. But see, this is what everybody's looking at right here. All right, you see that? This is how television people are rated now. It's not TV ratings; it's social media ratings. So everybody knows the trick is to talk about snow or something related to snow or whatever. And I'm holding my own by being conservative. I own the market. So you can win without being outrageous. So there. All right, I'm off my soapbox. Brian, share a boring personal story.
Bah humbug.
Ooh.
Rough.
What's got you cranky?
Everything you've just been talking about.
So Brian got his $1,200 phone a couple of weeks ago at Vortex Southeast. Look what I got, Brian. The red dot.
I kind of had a feeling that when I saw your message to our engineer and it said sent from my iPhone, my Apple Watch, I kind of had a feeling.
Now, it's screaming fast. I had the original Series 1. It's like an iPhone 1.
Can I have your hand-me-down?
Slow and kind of clunky. And for my purpose, it is so rude to be in some meeting or some public place and you're staring at your phone all day. That's just rude. I don't like that. I've really gotten good at not picking this thing up in a public setting, in a meeting, in a lunch or a dinner. I don't do it anymore. But you can sneak a glance with this thing. And now with the speed and the fact that it's got its own radio, you don't even need your phone. The phone can be, turned off completely because it's got an LTE radio in here. And it is, this is what the Series 1 should have been. So I can't go down the path of the $1,200 phone, Brian, but I got the little watch.
Yes, you can.
No, my phone is fine. Aubrey's your phone fine?
That's why I went down the path. So
Aubrey's got a Pixel. I love Pixel phones.
Oh yeah, it's great. So, I don't have a lot.
And you
nothing fancy.
Now if you got the Pixel, the big size or the smaller size?
Small size. I need it to fit clutch.
Yeah. So you don't have that's the one gripe people have on the Pixel phones is a burn-in issue and some colors, because these are OLED screens. They're beautiful. Brian's got one and you've got one. They're just gorgeous. But the small one apparently doesn't have that issue. So Pixel phones are great. I think half the battle now, it's what infrastructure you're in. If you're in the Google infrastructure or the Apple infrastructure, and I dabble in both. But at some point, it's all about the infrastructure. If you're all on one platform, it's just easier. Things play better together. Okay. I don't even, what are we doing here? Tech brains?
Sounds good.
Phone brains.
So this show is going to be released tonight. This is the actual show for this week. For those that are watching, we are doing a Wednesday night special and a Friday night special. So
I thought it was Thursday night, James.
Oh, Thursday. I'm sorry. You're right. Yeah. Thursday. I'm so sorry. Thursday. So tonight, Wednesday, and Thursday, same time, 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. Same time, same channel. But so you'll get a 3-show week here. And Greg Carbon is coming on what, Thursday, Bill?
Thursday. Dr. Pam Heinzelman on Wednesday, but he'll reveal his 10th top weather event on Thursday.
Yeah, the year ender. It's like the I do a nationally syndicated radio show called Rick and Bubba. They had their year ender Friday, and this is our year ender. Will be when Greg Carbon comes on to do the top 10 events of the year. So that'll be exciting.
So what do y'all think the 10th event will be? Because he got through Irma. Will it be Maria? Will it be? I guess it'll be the fires in California. Huh?
Well, how do you know something doesn't happen between now and Thursday?
Well, given you're going on vacation, there's no telling what'll happen.
Yeah, exactly.
But you won't quite be on vacation yet, so he'll have to add an 11th.
Yeah. What is that? A 1,060 millibar high coming down the chute to your next week? It's just not good.
You know how to pick them, James.
Oh, brother. Oh.
But wherever you are, you can just tell us what you want to do on your phone. I mean, your watch.
Yeah, your watch. I'm talking to it.
Right. I'm going to Dick Tracy that whole event right here.
It really is Dick Tracy. That's what it looks like.
Absolutely.
But the thing is,
checking your watch. Like, hurry up and tell the speaker to get off the stage because I got to go.
Here's the key to making this thing work. It's these things. You got these wireless headphones that link up to this, so you can do music. You can make phone calls. Phone call quality is stunning. How good it is without even having to have your phone. Your phone can be turned off, and you do Siri. You talk to it, and it answers emails, texts. I mean, it is very efficient. So I feel like we got to give these guys an invoice for these free messages. We
Good luck on that.
Pixel phones and Apple watches on the show tonight. So we're going to send an invoice to Google and Apple and see if they pay. Maureen, can you hear us?
I sure can. Can you hear me?
Yay.
Yes. Loud and clear.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Sorry for the foolishness. I apologize.
That's okay. I enjoyed it.
We have to wait until the bottom of the hour to start the show. We hit local television at 30 after the hour, so we can't start quite yet.
Is my lighting okay where I am?
Yes, you actually have better light than some.
Since I'm at home and I'm not at work, it's not studio quality, but
I have Hampton and St. Louis studio lighting tonight. So.
Yeah, Bill is in the Roach Motel in Walla Walla, Washington tonight.
You always say that. I'm in a fine hotel right next to the interstate. It's sort of like planes, trains, and automobiles. I can hear I-44 running through the outside of my room here.
The Braidwood Inn. See, I remember the name of the motel in that movie, which is scary. And the guy running the desk, his name was Gus. Gus.
You're gonna make me want to go watch that movie next week during
Last Room in the Complex. Those aren't pillows.
I love when he says, "You're going the wrong way." Thank you. How do they know which way we're going?
So, yeah, those aren't pillows. That's a show title. We can't do a show title though in the pre-show. All right, 30 after the hour, and just like that. Welcome to the television side. Welcome to those watching on TV. It's WeatherBrains night. This is December 18th. We're about to start the show. Is everybody here? I don't see Kevin. Where's Kevin? He'll pop in. Let's get this sucker going. Let me get the recorders set. We're going to turn on recorder number 1 for that track, recorder number 2 for the Hangout track, and here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is WeatherBrains, episode number 622. Oh, it's the most incredibly marvelous time of the year. We're 1 week away from Christmas. This is for December 18th, 2017. We're glad you're here. We got the gang back on here. Last week, we kind of had folks thinned out. Brian Peters, you were on the pole position last week. What were you doing last week?
I was getting ready for the special election in Alabama.
So did any fist fights break out or any ruckuses there at your polling place? Everybody behaved?
Everybody was behaved. Yes.
Brian is
who got the most write-in votes on the write-in side, Brian? Do you
have no idea? We don't count them.
How many did James get? That's what I want to know.
I know. The Alabama Secretary of State. The guy's name is John Merrill, and I've known John for a long time, and he promises to get me the results. They have not counted the write-ins. There were articles that Nick Saban got all the write-ins. That's not true.
That's not true.
Nobody has counted the write-ins. I don't know who made that up, but we should know probably in a few weeks. And I'm optimistic. Can't guarantee it, but I'm optimistic for a 4th place finish behind Saban. And no, I'm serious. If I finish 4th, I want a trophy. I want a little trophy I can put on my little thing over here that says James Spann finished 4th in the United States Senate race in 2017. That's something
I can hear Wolf Blitzer now. CNN projects James Spann is the next U.S. Senator from Alabama.
Oh boy, you can't make this stuff up. Oh God, I'm so tired of politics.
Well, no matter what, you didn't win enough to win the position because at our polling place, only 3% of the people had write-ins.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So you didn't win, that's for sure.
But you could have thrown the election.
Aubrey, have you ever run for Senate in your life?
Not that
she knows of.
No, but Aubrey does get an award, James.
Oh?
Yes. She gets the award for the best tracking sweater.
You mean I get the award for ticking off Kevin the most?
No, for your sweater that says tracking Santa
tonight.
Claus.
I know. I have it.
I had to blow that up to see the tracking Santa.
Wait a minute.
Now, WeatherBrains is tracking the tracker. We track what the consultants track, so you can track along with us.
Oh, yeah.
And what timing?
I'm going to go grab
Here's
it.
WeatherBrains lead tracker, Kevin Selly.
That is perfect. It introduces him and he shows up.
I
Look who
just
showed up.
got here.
I mean,
Your
we had
reputation preceded you.
a hunch you were coming. So, Aubrey, let's see the sweater.
James can hit any post.
So
Aubrey, let me see that sweater.
Oh no. Yes, I've seen this.
it even has the tracker on the arms,
Yeah.
on both arms.
You'll have to send me an email and tell me where you got that.
I made it.
You made it.
I made it.
Can you
And
make
then
two?
on the back, we have our little cold opens for the weather that say always watching, always tracking.
Very
Wow.
nice.
I'm currently going through my choicest selection of lumps of coal for Aubrey's stocking.
See, I told you I won the award for kicking Kevin off.
Wow, that's awesome.
Not amused. Not amused.
Fully
So, Kevin,
inspired.
We've never seen you in this odd background here. Where are you?
This is the new and improved lobby. Remember the paneling?
Yeah.
They've changed it. Well, like never mind. It's not. It's
That's
just
right.
whiter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Kim Cloco, are you still married?
Oh, wow.
I'm just about to one Kardashian, I think. We're doing great.
And have you stopped beating your husband? Is the second question.
Oh,
Gosh,
Rick's-
it's sweet.
Rick Smith, I apologize. We're not going to drag you into this. Rick is back. Rick is the warning coordination meteorologist for the National Weather Service in Norman, Oklahoma. And I'm always thankful for your social media graphic that I steal every year. So thank you.
Well, it's there for everybody to use. So I know it's been going around. I think the other popular graphic the past week or so has been the WFO Pleasant Hill graphic showing the Plinko or Pachinko board. That's a good one too. We've stole that one from them. So
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And the Weather Service in Fort Worth has one that people steal. I've stolen that one. So
actually, they stole that from us, I think.
Oh, so they stole it from you. So see, there's
social media.
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
We're all one. It's all one NOAA, one Weather Service, right, Kim? I mean, we're just one big happy family.
And so, but before we even start the show, we have to stop for this public service announcement.
We interrupt this program for a CBS Radio Net Alert Bulletin.
Psst. Hey, kid.
Who, me?
Take a look at this.
Whoa. This professional-looking graphic says there'll be a largest of all-time, record-setting, polar vortex-induced superstorm developing in the upper Midwest, converging with a never-before-seen southern stream mega shortwave over the southeast, merging with an out-of-season Category 7 tropical system off the northeast coast, encountering an omega block-induced 1,250 millibar cold air high-pressure bubble over the northeast affecting billions of people in March 2017.
You know what it means, don't you? Chicago, 3 degrees above absolute zero. 120,000 foot-top thunderstorms from New Orleans to Atlanta. And the antenna on the top of the new Freedom Tower in New York will be the only thing sticking out of the snow.
Whoa. I need to share this professional-looking graphic on my social media accounts right away. Where do I find it?
Right here on the International Weather Authority Service Facebook page.
Remember, friends don't let friends share ridiculously long-range forecasts on social media. Only you can prevent social meteorology hype. This message from the Ad Council and anyone with a lick of sense.
I love it.
Timeless.
That might be my favorite.
That's got to be the greatest. Bill Murray bringing our guest before she hangs up on us.
Yeah, she may have already given up. Tonight's guest WeatherBrains James is a CCM, a CBM, and an NSH. Maureen, do you know what an NSH is?
No, I'd have to think about that.
An NWA seal holder, and we appreciate that.
I just assume that's NWA.
That's right. She is a graduate of Cornell University, the AMS Commissioner on Professional Affairs. She's a morning meteorologist at News 13 in Orlando. Maureen McCann, welcome to WeatherBrains.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Maureen, you didn't get to weigh in. What kind of phone do you have?
I actually just purchased within the last couple of weeks. I have an iPhone 8 that I went to New Hampshire and bought tax-free when I was home at Christmas or at Thanksgiving. So I upgraded from my 6 to an 8, and it's brand new, and I love it. So I am
Brian
team
Peters,
Apple.
you didn't tell us about this tax-free thing in New Hampshire. Why didn't you inform us about that?
I thought everybody knew.
There you go. I just got my 8 too, so I'm really, really happy. It had 256 gigs of memory. That's what I'm happy about.
I need to ask Maureen that you had a 6 or a 6S?
A 6.
And did you find
really
it slowing
slow.
down?
Yeah, it was like
big
dying exponentially at the end.
Yeah, that's what mine does. It's kind of tragic and frustrating.
And I was with my brother, and he was like, "How do you live like that? How do you use this phone?" And I thought it was okay, but it was deteriorating. So I'm so much happier with the upgrade. It's a world of difference.
Yeah, I've had people tell me that, the iOS upgrade didn't affect them, but it seemed to really affect me. And I don't know if it was just running out of memory or, if it was the iOS, but it became untenable for the last couple of weeks. I didn't think I was going to make it to this weekend, but finally a fast phone again. So Maureen, AMS is fast approaching, and Austin's a great town. What's the theme this year?
Yeah, there's so much going on. So again, thank you for having me on here to talk about it. Got the theme right here. Is transforming communication in the weather, water, and climate enterprise. And, this is Matt Parker's conference. This is his theme, and this is what he wanted to be able to, use communication as his theme to bring together so many different parts of the weather enterprise, including the broadcasters. So that's what's so special about this upcoming conference, the fact that the broadcasters are going to be joining the annual meeting for the first time since 2007. I don't know if any of you guys were there for that one. That was the ice storm in San Antonio.
Oh boy, that's not a good sign.
And I think the last time the broadcasters joined the annual was in 1995, I think, and that was also in Texas. So it's good to have a central location for people to convene. So yes, communication is the theme. And the thing that I've been most involved with is the Bob Ryan Symposium, which is very fitting given the communication theme.
So I have a question I'm sorry, Bill, that should come toward the end, but I can't go. I thought there was a slim chance, but I can't go. What, if anything, will be available this time around for people who can't go? Is that a fair question this early? I'm sorry.
Yeah, because I know that is always a concern for people who can't go. And, this day and age, so many people do things on Facebook Live and they can stream things remotely. I believe we are going to have one portion of the conference available for live streaming to watch at home. And you should be able to get professional development points for it, for your CBM or CCM. And it is the presidential town hall meeting lunch, which will be on Monday afternoon. And that's going to be a panel discussion all about the 2017 hurricane season. It is going to be moderated by Marshall Shepard. It's going to be a panel of 6 different people. It's going to be spectacular. So that is one thing that you can watch from home, Kevin.
Thanks. Good. Now, so Kim, can you share your news, or is that top secret news, what you shared among some of us today?
My news that I shared with you?
Yeah, about why you were supposed to be in the fiasco in Atlanta yesterday.
I don't think that it's top secret. I hope that it's not offensive to this crowd. I was actually supposed to go and be part of another weather geekery show this evening. I was going to be on a taping for Weather Geeks on the Weather Channel. And I know.
As long as you say WeatherBrains 6 times during the show, you'll be
right. I mean, I was clearly going just to promote our show.
Of course, exactly.
Of course. But yeah, I was going to go and talk about a topic close to all of our hearts with flooding and communicating flood threat and the challenges we have in doing that well. And then, the power went out to the airport. And yesterday I saw the news report that the power was out in the afternoon. And when that wore on for 3 or 4 hours, I thought, there is just no way. There is just no way that this is going to actually take place tomorrow. And I emailed them and just thought, hey guys, what is plan B? Is there a plan B? What is plan B? And it turned out plan B was created this morning at about 6 o'clock when my flight was ultimately canceled, and they just couldn't make anything work. But you got out today, Bill, from that airport, right?
Yeah, I was lucky. It was back to normal, because, there are lots of crazy things cascaded through the day and a lot of flights were canceled this morning. But I was lucky. I was in and out. But it was funny. I was sitting in a restaurant eating, waiting for my flight. And someone in the restaurant turned the lights off for a second. And the place went crazy. I mean, people were like bolting for the doors, and then they realized it wasn't the whole terminal; it was just the restaurant. And so somebody must have done that for fun, just to make everybody crazy. But anyway, I was really lucky. I was only 45 minutes late. I drove like a banshee on the interstate from the airport to here, just to make the show. And if I had made one mistake, I would have ended up in Illinois, and the show would have been you again, Kim. You would have been running the show again. But I wanted to be here for Maureen. So Maureen, talk about Matt for a moment. We had just had him on the show, and then we had the shocking news of his passing, and it really is just something that's hard to get over. Talk about Matt for a moment.
Yeah, and I think that this many months later, it's still such a shock, and we're getting close to what would have been his conference. As a president, you go throughout your year, and then at the end of your year, you have your annual meeting. And Matt was so passionate about this communication theme. That's why he wanted to bring the broadcasters in. And Matt was such a champion for us broadcasters for being a non-broadcaster himself. He was so wonderful to all of us. And, I think we all can speak to just what a good friend he was. And he was so good at, maintaining his relationships across the weather enterprise, not just within, his line of work. So he is going to be so proud watching down on this for everything that we have planned. One thing that we're really excited about, Matt had this vision of making a roadmap, as he called it, for early career professionals to become CBMs and CCMs, because that process can be intimidating and daunting, and you go on the AMS website and sometimes it can be overwhelming. Matt wanted to make it very clear and concise, and this is what you should be doing in college, and this is what you should be doing year one out of college. And that's one of the presentations that will be in the Bob Ryan Symposium. So I know Matt will be really proud about that.
That's outstanding. So AMS can seem very daunting. The annual meeting is huge. Lots of different activities going on concurrently. So how do you make it feel small? What are some things y'all are doing this year to make it feel smaller?
Yeah, it can be overwhelming, especially if you've never been to an annual meeting before. And, I speak from the broadcast community that, we have our own standalone conference during the summer typically, and so many other smaller conferences do too. But the annual is the time to come together. And for broadcasters who have never been to the annual meeting, you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. I personally love it because it's an opportunity to see people who I don't get to see all the time that are, from different fields. And there's so many networking activities to make new connections. The way that we make it seem smaller, I think, is the individual conferences and symposia that are within the annual meeting. You check in, or at least you used to, and you'd get these giant books, these huge programs, and just thumb through it and say, where do I begin? Well, now you can kind of plan all that ahead of time to figure out what are the highlights, what are the things that you want to do. And there's an app, and that can just guide you to where you need to be from one session to another. And you'll get alerts about certain things that will be starting. One thing that is different this year, the presidential forum is going to be on Sunday. That was also Matt's idea. That was part of his planning to kind of shake things up a bit and do that on Sunday, as opposed to doing it Monday morning. The presidential forum had always been Monday morning to kick things off. So, you'll get an alert saying that it's starting or something different is happening. So, I really recommend having the app and making a plan before you go to be able to know what your talks are. But, for broadcasters, we're going to be pretty much in the same room for most of the time, with our talks being Monday through Wednesday.
So most folks will come in on Saturday, I guess, for the event this year.
Yeah, for those who haven't made their plans yet, or if you are in a market or city that's driving distance, we do recommend coming in over the weekend because there's so many things going on, especially for students, because the student conference takes place on Saturday and Sunday. For Sunday is WeatherFest. And the other big thing that's happening, speaking of Matt, is this new communication workshop. And this was also part of his vision that he wanted to do. And this is a collaboration among several different boards. It's been led by Gina Esco and Castle Williams, among others. And that communication workshop will be Sunday. So yes, coming in Saturday, not a bad idea. And having lived in Austin for almost 5 years, I definitely would recommend coming in as early as you can to spend as much time there as you can.
Hey, Maureen, this is Rick, and the first time I got to meet you, I think we were on a panel together at this last year's AMS annual meeting. So good to see you. Thanks for being on. And I just want to echo what you said about planning ahead. I mean, it is really critical, and I've already started trying to plan ahead just in case I do get to go. And I mean, it's frustrating because there's so many good things to see. And you get it all in the app and you see, oh, I have 5 conflicts in this one time period. And at one point last year, I think it was last year's meeting, I counted 27 different things going on simultaneously. So it can be overwhelming, but your suggestion was perfect. Plan ahead, know where you want to be and how to get there, how far apart the rooms are, if you can map that out. I mean, the planning does help. It's kind of like going to Disney World.
Yeah, exactly. I was just there yesterday. And we are looking at, a convention center that is huge, and it does take so much time to get from one session to another. So, Rick, that's exactly right, to be able to plan all that stuff out and know where you're going to be. And of course, it's all available on the AMS website too, but the app I definitely recommend downloading.
Yeah, the app is a lifesaver, I tell you what. And it's fun if you can, sit there and plan out all the things you're going to do and then just execute it. It's like a football play. And speaking of football, could we move it off the national championship game Monday night, Maureen?
I know.
Killing me.
That is, Monday night is actually the night that we're doing the Bob Ryan reception. And we were calling around for different places to figure out where we were going to hold this. That, this was 6 months ago, all the bars and restaurants had that on their calendar. I'm just glad that it's not Super Bowl weekend like we had in Atlanta a couple of years ago. So that was a big conflict, although my team wasn't in it that year. So.
Well, that would be a huge help. Or if somebody could just get Saban out of Alabama, then we wouldn't keep winning national championships and wouldn't have that problem. I know Kim probably has an issue with that, but we'll talk about that later.
Bill is a Bammer.
A Bammer. That's what I am. I'm a Bammer. That's for sure.
You're being kind of presumptive that you're being kind of presumptive that you're actually going to be playing on that Monday night. So.
Well, I know that's the consolation prize. If we don't win,
I'm not saying a word about it. I'm not jinxing anything. So.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not counting my chickens. I just want to get through the first one, and then we'll take it from there. But it's that threat. It's like the threat of snow and ice. It makes me worry. So anyway, talk about the Bob Ryan Symposium. That's not just for broadcasters, right?
That's right. Yeah, this is something that could appeal to early career professionals because there's going to be some mentoring components too. I mean, we all know the impact that Bob has had on not just, broadcasting and Washington, D.C. weather, but, he reached millions of people being on the Today Show before that. And he has, all these accolades, including now a named symposium. But, he's the only broadcaster to have been president of the AMS. He's a CBM, a CCM, honorary member, fellow. I'm sure I'm missing some of those things too. So this is going to be really cool. And actually, back to Matt Parker, he was the one who really got the ball rolling on this about a year and a half ago, saying, if we're going to bring the broadcasters in for 2018, this could be a good time to do a named symposium for Bob. So I am co-chairing that along with Veronica Johnson, who worked with him a long time in Washington, D.C., close colleague, and working with the broadcast board chair, Doug Hetty, who's in Joplin, and Cheryl Nelson and Tim Heller are the other co-chairs. So we've all been working together on this. And the Bob Ryan Symposium will technically be the first day of the broadcast conference on Monday. And we will have talks throughout the day, looking back on Bob's career and what he did in Washington, D.C., and of course what he did with the AMS. But like I said, we're going to have those sessions on mentoring. We're going to be including a lot of his former interns to be able to see how they have evolved because of Bob's guidance. And I just talked about the roadmap talk. The AMS Board on Best Practices is going to be giving a talk too about their communicating winter weather uncertainty best practice draft, which they had been working on, which all just falls under the general umbrella of communication. And then, we're going to break for lunch, and this is for the whole conference, that we will all be able to go to that big town hall meeting that I mentioned earlier, the luncheon. And because of that, lunch is going to be from 12 to 2, which means everything in the afternoon gets pushed. We're really excited also about the afternoon panel discussion, which will be moderated by Jason Samenow of the Capital Weather Gang, who also is a former intern of Bob's in Washington, D.C. And that will speak to, beyond broadcasters about, best practices in social media and, tying in the early career professionals concept too. So that's all happening on Monday during the day. Then in the evening, we're going to be doing a reception for Bob. And of course, this is going to be a long day on Monday because you have the talks all day. And then you have poster sessions at 4. At 6, I believe, will be the exhibit hall receptions. So it's always a good time to be able to go and, have some food. They usually have a cash bar there and lots of freebies, all the different vendors. It's always fun to walk around. After that, we will have a reception for Bob at one of the restaurants in the Hilton, which is one of the main conference hotels. And it's important to note, if you're listening now and you're going to be attending, that does require a separate registration ticket. It's only $10, gets you a drink, and it is sponsored by Earth Networks. And really want to thank Mark Hooksema for helping get that together with Earth Networks, because he also is a former colleague of Bob's. So we're bringing together so many people from Bob's past, and not just looking back on his career, but also talking about communication and looking forward on what challenges lie ahead.
So Maureen, will broadcasters be a regular fixture in the annual meeting in the future, or will this be a sporadic thing?
That's a good question, because if you look at the next 5 years, then I guess you could say that, because there will be another time that the broadcasters join the annual. So we're talking January will be in Austin, joint with the annual meeting. So that means next summer, there will not be a broadcast conference. The broadcasters will not meet until 2019. And that will likely be a West Coast location. It hasn't been determined yet. And then fast forward to January of 2020, we will once again join the annual meeting, January in Boston, for the 100th anniversary of the centennial of the AMS. So that's my hometown. So I'm definitely looking forward to that one. January in Boston, I'm sure there'll be some travel impacts here and there. That's probably a guarantee, but that one, yes, the broadcasters will join it again. So again, either the broadcasters are going to love it or they're going to hate it, but it's not a permanent thing, because there is value to us having, just like other sectors, having the standalone conferences on your own where it is a little bit more intimate.
Awesome. Talk about some of the early career professional activities that are coming up, because I read these articles all the time, Maureen. The millennials are screwed, and this is the worst generation since the Great Depression to be coming up, and that's all depressing. So I know you got some things lined up in that regard for the meeting too.
Yeah, I'm really proud of everything that the Board for Early Career Professionals has been doing. That's a relatively new board, and it was created a few years ago to be able to kind of bridge that gap between the student population, because AMS has a huge number of students that come to the annual meeting. And then, for whatever reason or not, after they get a job, they may have a hard time attending the annual because lacking seniority in their job, but then maybe they'll come back 5-10 years later. So it's really about, trying to enhance the experience of those recent graduates. Definition of early career professionals is a little gray. We're working on making that solidified and uniform across all of AMS. But for recent graduates, those within 10 to 15 years of their bachelor's degree, those sessions that are specific to them will be held on Sunday. The early career professionals have their own conference that is on Sunday afternoon. It does, I believe it requires a separate registration. But then in the evening, also one thing to add to your agenda or put in the app is the Early Career Professionals Networking Reception, which takes place on Sunday evening. You don't have to be an early career professional to go, but it's always a really wonderful networking opportunity because there's really nothing that's competing against it. You know, Rick talked about how sometimes there are so many things happening at once and your schedule will be double, triple booked. At least for early career professionals, that tries to not go up against anything else. So there's a lot of people that are there.
And you're the
and
coach
they have their
Go ahead, Maureen. Go ahead.
So early career professionals, they have their conference on the Bob Bryan Symposium. That social media panel that I mentioned, moderated by Jason Samanow, that is joint with early career professionals.
I'm really excited about the town hall on Monday. Who are some of the folks that are involved in that town hall that you're co-chairing, Maureen?
Yes, I got the list right here so I don't leave anyone off. Again, this is the town hall meeting that will be on Monday afternoon from 12 to 2, presidential town hall meeting about the 2017 hurricane season. It is going to be, I'm a co-chair with Tanya Francine and Joe Wang, and we are going to be we're really excited about this, and we pulled it together pretty quick after, Irma and Maria. Ussolini is going to do the introductory remarks. We have Tony Robinson from FEMA Region 6 talking about response, recovery, and future mitigation. We also have Jeff Linder from Harris County Flood Control District talking about the flooding impacts in Houston with Harvey. John Tui Morales is going to be on the panel talking about communication challenges and best practices. Jamie Rome will be on the panel talking about storm surge communication and impacts. Ada Monzon talking about Puerto Rico and Maria, and then Carrie Emanuel to tie in connections to climate. So that is going to be a very high-powered town hall meeting on Monday. So definitely make sure you add that to your schedule too.
Yeah, that's a can't miss there for sure. A bunch of heavy
and
hitters.
That's the one that will be streamed, I believe. So that's the one that you can watch at home if you're not going to be there.
Can't miss that. Rick, you got a question?
Yeah, just real quick. I know one of the joys of being a conference planner and a session chair and all of that has to be trying to plan around the federal government's vagaries with budgets and group travel approval and things like that. I know there's a lot of NOAA people scheduled to attend, including me, fingers crossed, but we really haven't received that official approval yet. I mean, are there concerns? Are there contingency plans in case, people can't make it? Or how does that work with a huge conference like the AMS annual meeting?
Yeah, I'm not sure I have an exact answer for that, but I know I have been in that situation before as a conference planner. And I remember a broadcast conference that we had, I believe it was 2009. I think it was Portland. It was on the West Coast, which tends to be we tend to get lower attendance on the West Coast because so many people come from Central and East. But that was right after the economic downturn and a lot of people could not make it. But I think maybe the contingency plans, at least speaking from experience, is sometimes you can give more time to the speakers who are going to be there because you're so crunched for time. As you probably all know, having been there, looking at the timer and seeing the red light flash and knowing you still have so much more to say, but there's just not enough time. So that may, allow a little bit of breathing room. But yes, that's a concern every year, unfortunately. And I know that sometimes some wonderful speakers are just not able to come for that one reason. So if there's one silver lining to it, I guess you could say that it's maybe it could make the schedule less packed. But hopefully you don't have to deal with that. Hopefully everyone gets to go.
Kim?
Yeah, no, I very much sympathize with this. I helped co-chair the meeting this past year in Seattle, and it was that West Coast meeting, and we, as over many of the recent years, have had challenges with late travel authorizations for the NOAA folks, and really we couldn't do very much. You just sort of have to play it by ear, wait to see what you're able to get. And all of the sessions are already set at that point. So you just sort of work with all of the conference co-chairs to say, look at your whole schedule and identify every single person who's weather service and it plans something for them not being there. That was the best that we could tell them, was plan something if they're not there. So it can be a real last minute fiasco. It's very fun. And I was thinking earlier when Rick mentioned the many sessions going on at the same time, this year I've sort of taken a little bit of a break. I will mention the one thing that I at least helped to get rolling because of Matt. It was at Matt's request. But you do planning for enough time and you kind of miss going to sessions and actually seeing them. There is so much going on, and anytime that you're taken away for running anything, it just really, time goes so quickly at those things. So the thing I do want to mention that Matt really wanted, he had spoken with me at the end of this past year's conference about having a presidential town hall that followed on from a symposium that we created last year on observations in the social sciences. So the theme of last year's meeting, Fred Carr's meeting, was observations lead the way. And he really wanted there to be a social science component to that. So we talked about the kinds of observations we take as social scientists, and Matt came. And like you were saying, Maureen, he's been such a champion for communication and the social sciences and everything that involves. And so he came up to me and asked me to make a presidential town hall, something that would follow along with it. And we never really ironed out what that meant before he died. And it was a shock and it was sad. And I didn't know what I could do to fill that role, in a way that really, Scott, his co-chair for planning this year, came up to me and said, "You're our one presidential town hall." We were the one town hall until all the disasters happened, and it's so great that you guys are doing this for as part of the impacts. But I chose to, and I want to highlight that I handed the reins over to the folks who ran the National Academy study on social sciences and the weather enterprise. So they're going to use that time to talk about their findings, their recommendations from the report. I think that it'll be on Tuesday afternoon during lunch. So if you have any availability during lunch on Tuesday, absolutely stop by and participate in what's sure to be a really awesome conversation with this very timely report. I think it's very rare that you only have sort of two presidential high-profile town halls, and there's usually so many going on. So it's very neat that we get this opportunity to have these highlights for such important stuff.
And I believe, Kim, I think you guys had really good attendance last year for a West Coast conference, if I remember correctly.
It was. We were shocked, actually. I mean, the last minute attendees were actually really, really high, and that was boosted. We were pretty sure by things going on in politics. There were just a lot of people who decided that was the year that they were going to go. If they were going to do anything, they were making it to that meeting. And I think for so many of us, it was something that was helpful because there'd been so much, anxious rhetoric. It was just so nice, I think, for people to be able to get together and to remember, we can't always get together and talk about all the things that are meaningful to us and forge these connections and move ahead with the work that we value, no matter what's going on in the rest of the world. And it was really great that we had so many people and such a robust meeting, even with it being West Coast. It was truly terrific. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That was for a Seattle meeting especially, really special. We usually get that kind of attendance in like New Orleans, a place that's in the middle-ish, and it's really fun to go to in the winter. We were pleased.
So Maureen, you got some news about the certification breakfast this year that's really important.
Oh yeah, I'm really excited about this one because every year there's a tradition of the CCM breakfast, in which certified consulting meteorologists get what the commissioner before me, Jay Trovac, used to say it was the best breakfast all week because it was the hot breakfast. It wasn't the continental breakfast. But it was always just for CCMs. And this was also, Matt was behind this, helping me say, what about the CBMs? What about the television seal holders? Where's their breakfast? Well, typically there aren't a lot of broadcasters that come to the annual meeting, but we made it happen, and we're going to call it the certification breakfast. And CBMs, TV seal holders will be able to come too. That's going to be Wednesday morning. So another thing to add to your agenda. I mean, who doesn't want free food? And it's a good breakfast. So Wednesday morning.
So Rick Smith, what other can't miss items are on your AMS app for this annual meeting?
Well, gosh, there's a lot. I'm actually, if I get to go, I'm actually going to be able to participate in the student conference. So I'm going to be getting there Saturday and doing stuff Saturday and Sunday. Just a lot of sessions. I tend to gravitate a lot toward the societal impacts kinds of things that Kim was so involved in, and I'm chairing one of those sessions and doing some talks. And I don't know, it's my pick of the week, if Maureen doesn't want to use it, is actually a link to the program of the meeting, and there will be a lot of live tweeting going on, and it's good to kind of have that program, even if you're not going to be at the meeting, to have that and follow along, and because there's almost surely going to be someone tweeting most of those sessions. So I don't have anything. I don't have my app out in front of me to list the things, but I wasn't kidding earlier when I said there's some times where there's like 5 or 6 things piled on top of each other. So, and can I ask Maureen a quick question?
Absolutely.
Maureen, do you have any way of knowing how many broadcasters might be in Austin this year?
I don't know offhand, so if I told you, I'd be making it up. But generally, somewhere between maybe 175 and 225. But we're hoping that, given the recent hurricane season being in Texas, ground zero for Harvey, and so much that has gone on the last year, we really hope that we can get those numbers up. Still time to register, of course, and if you're driving distance, you can do a one day. You don't have to come for all week.
Right.
So Kim, anything else that you're going to add to your can't miss list for that week?
Oh goodness, yeah, I'm going to be very honest and say that I am woefully unprepared for AMS this year. I still am putting my own presentations and sessions together. This week has been a rude awakening, and that it's the last week before the holidays, and AMS is really early this year. So I'm among the the researchers who are in their last minute scramble. But that said, I tend to gravitate towards societal applications, but I love going to the wide variety of different talks because I really like AMS for being able to keep up on the technology and the research that's going on in the physical sciences. And obviously I'm embedded here in Norman in a lab that is very physical science, but you just get to see everything in a more complete package. It's so educational. I love being able to go, especially since I can't take classes anymore. You get beyond that point, and AMS to me serves that role to stay current. And I love going to everything. I love finding the most just random of sessions that look fun, and I steer myself toward them. So who knows where I'll find myself, but chances are I run around enough that I'll run into most people who are listening. If you're around the meeting, I'll be in most rooms at some point.
And Kim,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, Bill. I was just going to say, sometimes people see you going to a conference and they go, wow, it must be fun to just go to a conference and relax all week. But if you're doing it right, if you're really trying to get all the stuff you go to, it is exhausting. And for an introvert like me, is triply exhausting. But just the running around, just getting from room to room. Okay, 4:15, this session ends. I can make it to the other room's only a half mile away. I can make it there.
Oh,
it's intense,
yeah.
And it is exhausting, but it's exhausting in a good way. And I know I always come away with my brain just full of stuff and wanting to get back and do good things after you hear all of that. So it's a great experience. It's kind of a bucket list thing, the AMS annual meeting. I think I went to my first one in Seattle, not the last time, but the one before that, whatever year that was, and it was overwhelming and awesome. Yeah, 2011. So
yeah,
you can make it.
Did you Did you ever hear the funny story, everyone on this panel, about why AMS is never going to Atlanta again? Speaking of Atlanta fails.
Oh boy.
Oh, I haven't heard. We were just there in 2014. It was just a couple years ago.
And that is going to be the last time in the foreseeable future that we're there. If you go and look at the AMS meetings, they're planned all the way out to the 2030s at this point. We used to be on the schedule to go there about every 4 years. That is what we've been doing for a while, and we were going to continue that. That was the AMS that Marshall Shepard was president. And we all showed up for the student conference. I was helping to run it that year. And Marshall, I see him just in a frenzy, and I'm trying to figure out where we're going, because I had thought, as being part of the planning crew, that we were in one of the early blocks, like one of the sections that's really close to the Omni and the CNN complex, and it's, you know, one of the nicer ones. And he was like, no, we've been bumped by the chicken conference. There was, I kid you not, a chicken conference. I don't know what they were talking about, but there were a lot of chicken people. And
that's a show title right there, Brian. Mm-hmm.
They had overextended their stay by a day. And so it kicked our meeting all week down to C Block, which is about a half-mile walk down. And Marshall was having none of that. So we canceled all of our contracts with them. And we rebooked for Denver. And I think we had more Austin or Houston. Houston was a replacement. If you go and look now, Atlanta has been snubbed forever because of chicken conference.
You're gonna pay for that mistake for a long time, Atlanta. They're all a Twitter down there tonight because some lobbyist has signed up in Georgia from Amazon, so they're just assuming now that they're going to get the Amazon headquarters that's out there. So that was what the newscasts were. They were moving from the epic power outage to the Amazon lobbyist being the big news in Atlanta tonight. So Kevin has suggested "Bumped by the Chicken Conference" as our title for tonight. I think that's very appropriate there. So anyway, what else, Kim, what are you going to be doing? What are you going to be presenting on while you're there?
Sure. I'll be, one of the things I'm most excited about is I'll be helping to run a panel on challenges in the NOAA test beds with technologies we're developing to communicate forecast uncertainty. So we are running into a number of really tough challenges, both physical science challenges, but especially communication challenges. And Maureen, you'll be interested to know, and actually, if you haven't been invited here before, we do invite broadcasters for our spring experiments now.
Yeah, I've been, is that the one that's done in severe weather season, like for a week in May?
We're moving it to June so that more broadcasters can come because it's next week.
And there's no AMS broadcast conference next summer, so.
Yes. And yep, we wouldn't be competing with that.
I've had to turn
so if you're
it
interested,
down I've had to turn it down. So I appreciate the invitation, but maybe this could be my year.
Yeah, this might well be. So we bring in broadcasters to try out the technologies. And some of what we've been finding from the broadcasters has been that, you know, you kind of get to a point where you can actually provide information that's overwhelming and overwhelms your systems to both understand what's going on and to communicate it out. So we're going to be talking about that and a couple of other issues from all the NOAA test beds in a panel during the conference.
Well, if you need to use the WeatherBrains Learjet, Maureen, we'll have Brian send it for you. So just let us know.
I'm on board.
Rick, are you presenting this year?
Yeah, I'm going to be on I'm on a panel on Saturday and again on Sunday for the student conference, and then chairing a big session on Monday that I'm really pumped about. My first talk is Tuesday, and I'm doing a talk actually co-authored by Dr. Cloco McLean and Randy Pepler about some informal research we're doing here on how people interpret geographic identifier terms like Oklahoma City metro area and I-44 corridor, these terms that are frequently used by not just Weather Service meteorologists, but also TV meteorologists to describe risk areas and things like that, and did some informal surveys and found out that there's widely varying opinions on what those terms mean. So it's not just about reading maps or not being able to read maps, it's some of the basic things like that. And then I'm a co-author with a huge fan of the show, OU student Robert McDonald, who's going to be doing the presentation. He's done a lot of in-depth study of our NWS chat activity from this past severe weather season. And I think I also have a couple of things going on at the NOAA booth, maybe a presentation or two there. So it's a full schedule.
Well, that's outstanding. I'm excited that Greg Stumps and his group's research to Operations Nexus is going to be at the AMS this year as an NWA donation to the event, and we're really excited about that. And that event has really grown on the NWA side, and now it's going to walk over and work in the NWA or in the AMS circles too. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So, Maureen, anything else we need to add before we wrap up and go to our recorded segments tonight? Anything else you want to make sure we talk about?
I kind of what Kim and Rick were saying about their AMS experience. I've always said that sometimes, the greatest networking and learning experiences are not in the sessions when you're taking notes and listening to a speaker. It's in the hallways. It's in the networking receptions. I oftentimes, and I'm sure you guys are the same, you have a place that you want to be at and you can't get there in time because you end up running into people and start talking to people. So there are other networking receptions, that I encourage you having on your agenda. On Sunday evening, like I said, early career professionals, there's a few others. There's also a speed networking or a speed mentoring session that the Board of Private Sector Meteorology and Early Career Professionals is involved in. That is Monday night. So those, definitely something to put on your agenda. But for your alumni associations too, or your schools, make sure you get to those on Tuesday night, because most schools tend to have a either formal or informal reception to be able to network with other alumni. And that's always a good thing to check out while you're at the conference.
And James, I'm going to pitch to you, but I'm here in St. Louis tonight and for this week working on the NWA WeatherFest, which will be here in St. Louis on August 25th. So I'll be meeting with a bunch of different sponsors and exhibitors and the venue and all sorts of things this week. So talk about, you mentioned it briefly, but the WeatherFest in Austin will be on Sunday. Talk about it for folks that are in that area that may want to come out and see that.
Yeah, that's something that will be, I believe, from 12 to 4, also free to the public. A lot of teachers are involved, students or the local stations come out. If there's any museums, I believe the folks down at the NWS New Braunfels have been very involved in planning that. John Zeitler, and I think I saw Bob Rose's name on it. I had a hand in it too. So there's so many, I worked in that market previously, so there's are involved in the WeatherFest, and that's from 12 to 4, so it does not interfere with the presidential forum, but that should be free to the public. Always great to kind of kick off the week by going to that too. It sounds like it's similar to the NWA experience. And I know there's a big scouting event too for, I believe it's Boy Scouts that will be getting some sort of weather badge, so that's a really cool opportunity as well.
So I was reading your bio, Maureen. I'm very depressed. So you wanted to get into meteorology. You've known since the age of 4 when Gloria blew through your New England hometown.
Yeah, you can do the math there, my age.
So Kevin, what do you think I was working during Hurricane Gloria?
Were you in Dallas?
Yeah, I think I was in Dallas. What year was that, Maureen? 85?
It was 85, September of 85.
Yeah, I was at Channel 4 in Dallas, and that was the great story where we had a newborn, and I was getting ready to go work the afternoon shift. I work weeknights at KDFW Television, and the news director called me at 11:30 Central Time, and he said, we got a live shot.
Yeah, I remember the story.
Some of you know the story, and I said, "Oh, great. Where's it going to be?" And he said, "The National Hurricane Center." I said, "Yeah, right. Where's the live shot going to be?" And he said, "The National Hurricane Center." This is back when these TV stations were a license to print money. Yeah. They had a Lear jet waiting for me at the Addison Airport, And I got down there at about 12:45, 1 o'clock. They took off, got to Miami at like 4 o'clock. I was in the Hurricane Center live for the 5 o'clock news in Dallas, which made no sense because Gloria was an East Coast storm that had nothing to do with Texas. But anyway, goodness. So, I was doing TV in Dallas back then. But tell us about the Orlando market real quick. And what time do you have to be at work in the morning?
I actually don't have to work tomorrow. I have tomorrow off. Thank you to my coworker, Jamie Martin, who's working tomorrow morning, and my colleagues for rearranging the schedule. Yeah, I usually wake up at 1:50, and that's not going to happen tomorrow. It should be nice. I do the morning show at News 13, Spectrum News 13 in Orlando. Coming off, obviously, a pretty busy hurricane season with Irma, and working mornings. We are at a 24-hour station. We used to be owned by Bright House. Now we are part of Charter Communications, sister station of Bay News 9 in Tampa. So it's weather on the ones, weather every 10 minutes, being able to go long form, continuous coverage in breaking weather events, which is good because we just preempt our own rather than angering viewers. If you are, breaking into Dr. Phil or an NCAA basketball game, we don't have to worry about that, which is nice. And it's, I've worked in affiliates, I've worked in the cable side, and I really think this is a good fit for me because you just get to do more weather. I get to be on 6 times an hour, and we get to be on a lot during breaking weather and doing team coverage. So it's a great weather market.
Do you know Alan Winfield, Maureen?
I don't think I've met him personally, but he is part of the Bay News 9 weather team, and I know he's been there a long time, and I've heard of his legacy with the 04 storms, I believe.
Yeah, I did mornings for him when he was chief in Richmond, and then replaced him when he left. What about Elliot Weiser? Is he still in that area?
I've never met him either, but I think he used to be at my station. Now he's in Tampa. Not sure what he's doing, but I know that name definitely is part of the News 13 history.
I'll stop asking old home questions there.
Yeah, but boring personal questions. We love them. So tell us about working Hurricane Irma. What was that like?
Well, on a personal level, I'm here in my new townhouse that I just bought and closed September 1st. Note to self, don't buy a new, don't be a first-time home buyer in hurricane season because I pretty much had to say goodbye to it. And
wow.
Yeah, that was just kind of scary having to say goodbye. It's like, I don't know if we're going to have a roof when I get back to this in a couple days. It was probably the longest I had been on air, but the shift before me, they bear the brunt of the tornado warnings. We were on the right side of the storm, as you know, and Matthew was an entirely different situation the year before. This was just a prolonged event from, I guess, Sunday through early Monday of just getting hammered with these bands and so many tornado warnings. It was really an interesting experience because I want to say the NWS Melbourne had 51 tornado warnings. And if maybe you've seen that imagery of all the couplets of all the areas of rotation, just there were so many of them over the entire peninsula and extending out over the Atlantic waters. So you're talking, you're in tornado warning coverage, but you're also in hurricane warning too. So people are already in their safe place. There's been a curfew. People aren't driving. So it's kind of a different approach to tornado warnings because you're telling people to get to the safest place of their safe place because everybody's home. We had a lot of tornado warnings. It was team coverage around the clock from, I guess if you figure Irma hit late Sunday into early Monday, and we started this stuff. We really saw it coming a week before to be able to prepare and talk about the uncertainty and guide the viewers through every step until Irma passed by early on Monday morning. So thankfully, when I came home, I had a roof and I lived in a neighborhood where the power lines are underground, and I reserved a hotel in downtown Orlando just because I live a little bit further from downtown now and from the station. So I reserved a hotel just to be safe, and I knew there was going to be a curfew, but the hotel lost power. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll just drive home. And I did have power, and the house was unscathed. So very, very thankful for that. It was that was way worse than Gloria. I mean, Gloria was nothing in comparison.
So you must have had to strike a balance because it was an ongoing news event at some level in between those tornado warnings. I mean, here in the plains, we get a tornado warning and we stay, and then the news people come and go as we ask them or they have something. But that must have been a different balance.
Yeah, because you have so many and you can't even keep up with them. And if I'm remembering correctly, I had worked Sunday morning team coverage with another meteorologist, and then the afternoon shift. That's when most of the tornado warnings occurred. I went back to my hotel and I couldn't sleep. You know, you're seeing all these tornado warnings one after another, and you can't cover them like you do individual ones. When you have one, you're going to stick with it because there are just so many. But that's when I went back to the station around 6 p.m. on Sunday, and I was there until about 9 a.m. I think. But
what was
that's
false
what I signed up
alarm
for
ratio?
it. So.
There were so many tornado warnings. How many of those actually verified? Do you know?
I don't know the number, but the Melbourne office did put out a report. I want to say at least a half dozen to a dozen, maybe. I don't remember offhand, but there definitely were some that did verify in Brevard County, which is over by Cocoa, because there was damage. So there definitely were a few. I'd have to get back to you on that.
So what do you guys do when there's no hurricanes going on down there? Just
I know we come December 1st when it's tropical update time, it's like, oh wait, we don't have to talk about anything. No, we're still, very hyper local with our weather on the ones, and we have our thunderstorms, we have our cold fronts in the winter, so we definitely stay busy with our weather coverage.
What's the for those of us who are not familiar with the Florida Peninsula, you've got convergence and sea breeze and summertime pop-ups. That must be what's your forecast process and during those?
Yeah, that's something that this will be my fifth. I'll be going into my fifth summer here, so it definitely took some time to get used to, because really it's the only place in the country where you have water on three sides, and you're in this tropical environment where the atmosphere is so volatile in the afternoon. Everyone says like, oh, in Florida it rains every day from 3 to 6 and then it ends, and that really is true, but it's crucial to determine where the sea breeze collision is going to occur, and is it going to occur on the eastern side of the peninsula, the western side of the peninsula, and how are they going to be moving? Are they going to be moving to the west, to the east? So that's kind of the critical thing. For mornings, that's mostly in the afternoon. So during the summer months, on my shift, we tend to not get as many thunderstorms, whereas in the winter time, that's when we get our overnight cold fronts. And Orlando, Central Florida has had its share of deadly tornado events, thinking back to the Kissimmee tornado of 1998 and Groundhog Day 2007. So we take severe weather very seriously where we are.
So I guess the new GOES data must have been quite something for those sea breeze episodes.
Yeah, and that was so exciting for us because it launched from the Space Coast right here. Right. I was there for that, and I was at the broadcasters workshop. Such an incredible experience. Yes, and that's going to be critical, especially once the lightning mapper data comes in. I think that is going to be another key piece of the puzzle to figure out the patterns with lightning and how the thunderstorms evolve with that. So yes, that's going to be a game changer with forecasting sea breeze collisions. I mean, we can see it on radar. So
yeah,
we can see it marching on shore.
Yeah. We were there a couple of years ago. I can't remember which tropical system was going by, but we were in Disney World, and a tropical system in Disney World and the humidity is just one of the worst things that you can experience.
I know. I'll admit I'm an annual pass holder because you have so many people coming to visit, and it's just a better value to have the annual pass. But I get the one with the blackout dates in the summertime because I don't want to be there in the summertime, and or when the crowds are so bad, like Christmas time. It's going to be packed the next couple of weeks, and I went yesterday with family in town, and I just saying I can't go over the next 2 weeks. Sorry, but I wouldn't want to be here anyways. It's so crowded.
Well, I'm gonna have my wife call you for that pass then, because she wants to go back. I'm like, I'm not going there. So
It's a steal. It's a steal for Florida residents.
well, her name is Tracy, so she's gonna be calling you. I'm expecting.
Oh, brother. So Marina, we've asked Aubrey about this. Ginger Z is a friend, and she just recently wrote a book called Natural Disaster. I Cover Them. I Am One. A lot of it is focused on her issues with depression, but also she talks about the struggles of being a woman in science and in television. And Aubrey can speak to this as well. But what have been some of your special challenges coming up through the ranks to work your way up as a woman?
Oh yeah, no, I had a high school teacher who told me I wouldn't succeed and I wouldn't get into Cornell and I wouldn't be able to go into the math and science. So yes, I definitely have had those challenges, but I don't know. I feel like I've been really lucky in the stations that I've been worked at, very supportive, wonderful chief meteorologists. And it kind of helps to just focus on what you're doing, kind of block out the noise from social media and the viewer feedback. We all get it, but I think because I love what I do, and I think all of us, we're in this line of work because we love it. It makes you, not worry as much about those negative things. But yes, there are challenges. I mean, I remember going to college and hearing that, oh, it's 80-20, it's 80% male and 20% female. And I've definitely experienced that. But I think in the last 5 to 10 years, there definitely are more females and there's more supportive, Aubrey, I'm sure you've talked about this on here, or I know I've heard you talk about, the female meteorologist group on Facebook. That's very supportive. So that helps a lot. And even coming to conferences and meeting other female meteorologists who are dealing with the same challenges and the same things, that's a helpful support system too.
Yeah, Aubrey, I guess you agree with that.
Absolutely. And I think, maybe especially for the newer female meteorologists, to find out about our group from just someone and to get in and use that resource and just know that you have a support system, that we've all started from somewhere and we've all been through it, and that you can get through it depending on, whatever feedback you're getting, and that, and just kind of learning how to deal with it. And it's tough, and different people deal with it different ways. But just learning to kind of blow past it and to know that you're better than that, and that everyone has an opinion. But I think that's really great, especially for some of our newer female meteorologists, to know that they're not alone, and that they can see the uplift. I mean, I can't ever remember reading a negative, we don't, I don't know, cut anyone down, and I think that's what some of these people do in the public, is they try to cut us down, and you'll never see that in our group. There is, not disagreements, but I think constructive criticism, but it's nothing but uplifting and positive, and it's a huge help.
Maureen, I had 2 women tell me a couple of months ago that they are hesitant to block people on social media, especially the creeps, because they don't want to lose the like count. Do you relate to that?
Man, I feel so lucky that I haven't had to be at a station where it's also metered and worrying about the likes and what James was talking about in the pre-show. I turned off the message feature on my fan page because you're only going to get the comments there that people they don't want to do it in an open forum. So if you turn it off, then you're not going to get those. So I'm not afraid to have that turned off. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's do this, guys. Let's take a quick break here. We're going to do Professor Peters and Tony Rice, and Aubrey will come right to you with email. We'll do Weather Roundup, Picks of the Week, and a whole bunch more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
WeatherBrains 101 with Professor Peters.
The history of many things in meteorology is relatively short when compared with other things, such as the age of the Earth or the age of our solar system. Radar is one of those items in the meteorological enterprise which has really not been around very long. Radar technology began with experiments using radio waves in the laboratory of German physicist Heinrich Hertz in 1887. He uncovered the fact that these waves could be sent through many different materials, but the same waves were reflected by others. In 1900, a radio pioneer, Nikola Tesla, noticed that large objects could produce reflected radio waves that are strong enough to be detected. He knew that reflected radio waves were really radio echoes, so he predicted that such echoes could be used to find the position and course of ships at sea. Pulse radar was introduced in the United States in 1925. Just 10 years later, radar was patented under British patent law, partly as a result of the research led by Scottish physicist Sir Robert Alexander Watson Watt. This patented radar later developed into the radar system that proved effective against German air raids on Britain during World War II. During World War II, radar systems were utilized to help guide various missions and track aircraft. However, at times, radar operators noticed some extraneous echoes showing up on their displays. Their investigations showed that the echoes they were seeing on their displays weren't aircraft or anything related to missions, but rather interference from weather. The first known use of the term radar was by U.S. Navy scientists during that war. Advances in both military and civilian applications of radar continued through the 1900s. After World War II, the U.S. Weather Bureau received 25 radars used by the Navy during the war. These were modified for weather detection and placed at various locations around the U.S. But the first comprehensive network of weather radars was established by the Weather Bureau in 1957, after radars were used for detection of hurricanes during the 1954 and 1955 seasons. The network of WSR-57 radars were replaced in the late 1980s and the first half of the 1990s with new models incorporating the use of Doppler technology to unlock the motion of water drops through the application of Doppler principles. And just about 20 years later, the implementation of dual polarization techniques continued to expand our ability to remotely sense the atmosphere around us. If you have a question about the weather, you can drop an email to question@weatherbrains.com.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your Astronomy Outlook.
Last week, the Total and Spectral Solar Irradiance Sensor, or TSIS-1, launched aboard a Falcon 9 cargo craft for the International Space Station. While a number of previous satellites have captured a continuous record of the Earth's solar energy input since 1978, TSIS-1 sensors advance previous measurements, enabling scientists to study the sun's natural influence on Earth's ozone layer, atmospheric circulation, clouds, and ecosystems. Instruments aboard TSIS-1 will also measure solar spectral irradiance, or SSI. This is the distribution of the sun's energy across ultraviolet, visible, and infrared wavelengths of light. These wavelengths are absorbed at different rates across the troposphere, stratosphere, and mesosphere. SSI data will help us better understand how the atmosphere reacts to changes in the sun's output. And the sun does change. Our sun's currently near solar minimum, or the point in the 11-year solar cycle where the sunspots, solar flares, and coronal mass ejections are more rare. The sun emits slightly more energy during these periods of low activity. TSIS-1 has a planned 5-year lifespan and will be installed by astronauts outside the station on the Express Logistics carrier. That's your Astronomy Outlook. Follow me in RTP Hokie for more spacey stuff like this.
Letters. We get letters. We get stacks and stacks of letters.
All right, let's start with an email. We have a listener survey response from Brian, is it Packabush? We'll say that, and hopefully that's right. From Oklahoma City, and found the show through Rick Smith. Someone found the show not through James Spann. How is that possible?
A rare exception.
Very rare exception. So congratulations, Rick. Appreciate it. So thanks for listening, Brian. We appreciate that. And we have a couple notes.
Are you tracking this now? Who gets how many referrals? Is that what's the new tracking thing?
I am now tracking the tracker of the trackee to see what the tracking trend is.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I am not getting coal for the shirt. It is fantastic, Kevin. You love it. I'm going to send it to you. Speaking of Kevin, I just passed along a pic for him. So this article from weforum.org has the title of "Ships Are Triggering Intense Lightning Storms." Very interesting of the pattern of lightning strikes over the ocean that could not be explained until some of the routes were looked at for these shipping lanes, especially in the Indian Ocean and the South China Sea. Very good article, worth the read. So I'll let Kevin share that here in a few moments. Next article, also from Daniel Lucas, and this is what I was just reading, titled, "Can Kim Jong-un control the weather? North Korea's state-run media says so." Of course. And it goes on about this picture that's probably photoshopped. But did you know that Kim Jong-un could drive at the age of 3 and was a competitive sailor at the age of 9? Can cure or treat AIDS and Ebola. And apparently he can control the weather too. So,
and he's going to work the weather.
The problem is the guy can't control his own haircuts first. I mean, you think he want to solve that problem before he got into the weather business.
There's an ICBM comment for Birmingham, Alabama.
And then we also have a question that was posed to us from Matthew Lawrence from Tucson, Arizona, about he posted the following question to Reddit, not expecting the best answers, but it may provide some good brainstorming. But we'd be delighted if he could get an answer from the experts. And the question is, why should adiabatic warming ever occur? Adiabatic warming is explained as a parcel of air that warms due to compression by flowing into an area of higher pressure, but wind is not supposed to flow toward higher pressure. So what conditions dictate that wind blows toward higher pressure, or is pressure even the real culprit that creates the heating? And from what I can see, and you all can chime in on this, is that we're talking more the vertical profile of air as it flows, especially terrain induced, as opposed to horizontally moving from high to low pressure.
I say that's the subject of next week's WeatherBrains 101, Brian.
I don't think so.
Adiabatic heating. Go for it.
All right, sounds good. That's all I have. So if you have any more emails, send them over to email@weatherbrains.com. Would love to hear your comments about the show, maybe some guest suggestions with some contact information, and also what you like about the show, and if you have any great topics for us that maybe we haven't covered yet, or if we have covered it, then we can direct you in the right direction to find that video on YouTube.
And if you hate the show, we'd love to hear from you too.
When the weather ball is red, warmer weather is ahead. When the weather ball is white, colder weather is in sight. When the weather ball is green, no change in the weather is foreseen. When colors blink by night or day, precipitation's on the way.
This is a weather roundup. This is for December 18th, 2017, week before Christmas. So let's start down to the south. Maureen, how's the weather in lovely Orlando this week?
Today we had a high of 83, average is 72. And next couple of days, that front is just kind of hanging out to the north. So we're going to stay warm and we don't have any significant cool downs. Last week we did have, this up and down pattern where we had some really chilly mornings. We had temperatures in the 20s in our northern counties and 30s, but now we've kind of leveled off comfortably, hovering around 80. So can't complain.
What's a chilly morning in Central Florida?
I swear, like 55 degrees here feels totally different. Like if I was at home in Boston, where I'm from, 55 degrees this time of year would be great. It would be wonderful. But here it is frigid. I do live weather in the mornings, and I often have the jacket on when temperatures are below 65.
So, speaking of Boston, do you like the Red Sox?
I like the Red Sox. I like the Patriots, like Celtics, Bruins. Yes.
What part of Boston?
Go ahead, Kevin.
What part of Boston?
Say that again. I'm from Arlington, Mass. Arlington.
Where's that?
Boston.
About 6 miles west. It goes Boston, Cambridge, Arlington. Paul Revere's ride came right through it. Uncle Sam has ties
I grew up
there.
in Sherburne.
Okay. That's more
Yeah,
to
but I
the
don't-
south.
Yeah.
Arlington is, Revolutionary War history, right outside of Boston.
Huh.
Right on the red line. If you've ever been to Alewife, that's our stop.
Okay.
So I'm excited because they re-signed Mitch Moreland today. My pal who works out with us over here, he was the first baseman last year, had a 1-year deal, re-signed for 2 more years. So that means I get a player pass at Fenway for a couple of more years.
Excellent.
All right, so let's see here. So that's the report from down south. Let's go to Rick and Kim, our Oklahoma correspondents. So how cold will it be Christmas Day over there?
Well, it's going to be a lot colder than it is now. We're going to, right now we're foggy, dreary, very Seattle-ish, London-ish kind of weather. Going to be back up in the 60s for highs middle of the week, and then some Arctic air moves in toward the end of the week and into Christmas weekend, early next week. We'll probably have highs not getting above freezing, maybe. Kim, I don't know what you have any different opinion on that, but that's kind of what we've been looking at.
That's really cute that you're asking my opinion. Well, it's Kim versus the National Weather Service Forecast Office, Norman, Oklahoma. I think that sounds
Hey, you're
great.
the
Rick.
National
I
Weather
concur.
Center, so. That's the right answer.
Yeah. We're consistent. I'm being consistent.
That's right.
We're communicating a consistent message across the weather enterprise, or in their case, the same building. So
on all
there we go.
floors of the Weather Center, we try to be consistent.
I feel really bad for the guy that I replaced here was here 32 years. And with some regularity, I hear about the 2009 snowstorm that they had on or around Christmas. And, I hear from time to time, but there's this tiny little chance of, some snowflakes on or around, today it sort of suggests Christmas Eve, but I literally couldn't go 10 feet anywhere over the past week without hearing about this 2009 storm. I just feel so bad for him. He's a nice guy. He was here for 32 years, but that one time where he went to bed and saying flurries and they woke up with like 9 inches on the ground had turned into his legacy. And I just thought, wow, and it was all good natured, but I'm so sick of hearing that storm about that storm rather.
We had one of those here 10 days ago.
Did you? Oh, that right? That one that came out of that one. I like your. You had a tweet or something at some point that said this storm is overperforming, and
that's the best I could come up with. We the day before we all got on the collaboration chat. The SUE, the WCM, the Weather Service, all the chief Mets. We got on the collaboration chat, trying to be on the same page. And bless our little pea-picking hearts. We all decided the day before this would bring up to 1 inch of snow, mainly on grassy areas, maybe a little more in high terrain. We wound up with some 15-inch totals and power outages, and it was a live and learn kind of deal. So this business will bring you to your knees, but yeah, it's happened to all of us.
That one's really overperforming back here in Texas. I mean,
it did, and it's like, what's the matter with us? We didn't notice that. You should forget these models. Just forget them. Look at the stinking observations. Look at what's happening. Look out the window, and it really did overperform in Texas, and we should have had a clue there. Aubrey, what's happening? Yeah, please call me when this happens again, please, and say, what's the matter with you? Aubrey, how's the weather in lovely Harrisonburg, Virginia?
Oh, it's great. But I think you just made a great point. Forget the models, go with observations, go with what's going on. And I think that's something that I've been trying to teach my lesser experienced meteorologists. And it's a little difficult to get them to not depend on model.
And I think too, the problem we're seeing now, everybody's posting these Christmas graphics, and any, Uncle Bob can go down and pull up some computer model map and throw it out on social media. And I think with this complex phase, we should really look at the ensemble approach instead of the deterministic approach. And let's look at all 51 members of the European and the 21 of the GFS, and let's just talk about uncertainty and boom values and bust values. And we've gotten to this point now, we're just throwing out these maps. And I say we, not necessarily professionals, but it's just something we have to fight. So it is what it is, and I'm not going to fight them anymore.
Well, and for example, that storm just a couple weeks ago on Wednesday, I remember Wednesday comparing the current run, I think it was the GFS, for what was going on right now. And the precipitation was like 150 miles north and west of where the back edge of the model had it. So that was a huge moment just in itself. So yeah, I like to not depend on the models. Anyways, so it's beautiful here. We were 58 today, which was gorgeous. And tomorrow I'm forecasting 63. And I am hedging toward the milder side of everything for the front that's coming in at the end of the week for Christmas. So.
Yeah, timing is going to be everything with that. It's just like some people in my state might be 73 on Christmas Day. Some people stay below freezing all day. But Brian Peters, talk about weather where you are. And as you do that, sir, I'm giving the hosting duties to you because you know who is the lead story on the late news next door in old Studio A.
Gee, I wonder why. Well, the weather is likely to be a little stormy in the southeast. We've been forecasting some wet weather, and it's been wet from Texas to Georgia, so kind of wet in the southeastern U.S. All right, this is when, and I've got James's pick here, so this is when we go around this lovely digital mahogany table and talk about picks of the week. Maureen, I'll give you a heads up. This is when, you've already posted it. Thank you. Appreciate that. Always hate to ambush our guests and tell them they have to have a pick of the week, but you're ahead of me.
Long-time listener, so
Good.
I guess I get that.
Fabulous. That's wonderful. All right. Well, okay, let's start with your pick of the week then. Since you've already ready, let's go with that one.
Okay, we talked so much AMS stuff. I was thinking about doing the annual meeting link, but thought I'd go a different direction. My pick of the week is the AMS mentorship program, which is put on by the Board of Private Sector Meteorology, BPSM. That falls under professional affairs. And as Commissioner on Professional Affairs, I oversee the boards that are involved with professional growth and development, including BPSM, and they have a wonderful mentorship program that is accepting applications right now, either for people who want to be mentored or people who would like to be a mentee and have a mentor. There hasn't been a great deal of broadcast interest in this, but perhaps there could be if people who want to be a mentor want to sign up. They also will be accepting applications at the annual meeting, but you can submit it online. That's a link to their board, and there's a video there explaining the mentorship program by the chair, Mike Augustinak, who's in Dallas. He's a broadcast meteorologist at CBS there. So there's lots of information about this program, and they're looking for more people.
Great. All right. We'll put that link up there. You can always find them at the bottom of our webpage for the current episode. All right. I know, Aubrey, you may have to go here shortly. So what is yours?
Mine is the climate information from NCDC, or what was NCDC and NCDL. I don't know what they're calling themselves, but
I've lost track of it. It's still NCDC to me.
I don't really know, but what was NCDC, formerly known as NCDC, the White Christmas odds across the country. And it's interactive now, and you can zoom in and click on the climate stations close to your area and really get the percentage, which in the Shenandoah Valley, it is 17%, which is about the same as getting snow in April.
All right. I haven't looked at what it is down here, but it's got to be pretty low. Okay, Kevin, you probably have to go also, or has he already gone? Oh my gosh.
Already gone. I'm going to say
already gone.
I'm going to say goodbye now. Maureen, thanks for coming on. Nice to meet you, see you face to face.
Likewise, Aubrey, thanks for having me.
All right, have a good night, guys.
All right, Kim, how about you?
Yeah, mine is actually going to take off from something Rick brought up earlier on the work that he's been doing with defining the Oklahoma City metro area. So one of my favorite websites, the Atlas Obscura, I'm a geographer, so I just love these things. They have just all day, they send all these wonderful geographic tidbits. This was actually reposting today they made of a story from 2016. But it's a really neat study that tries to identify across state lines how people can define regions. And they looked at traffic data, and they showed that places, their assumption was places that are more connected with more traffic are more socially connected. So they redrew lines across the state borders And these actually are the kinds of questions that arise for us when we're trying to communicate, like Rick said, severe weather the day of an event, but also for programmatic things. So many of your listeners in the Southeast might be familiar with a program called Vortex Southeast, a field project going on in that region. And I was given a charge as part of a working group to decide what is the Southeast, because the Congress had not actually defined it. And so we pulled up a number of the kinds of studies like I just shared to try to define what even is this region that we're supposed to be focusing all of our attention on for this program, because there can be conflicting ideas about what defines a region. So just wanted to put in some concrete terms something that Rick brought up. These questions are very important for us to consider, because for some of the things that we talk about, there's not necessarily single consensus on what a particular region or even a city urban boundary is. And in an era when we're trying to have all this very high precision communication going on about weather threats, we need to think about the reference points that we're making and what that means to our audiences.
Very good. It's all about communicating, isn't it? Rick Smith.
It sure is.
Yeah, Rick Smith, what's your pick?
Well, my pick, since Maureen didn't use it, thank you, Maureen.
You got lucky, Buster.
I did. I was going to scrounge up something though. My pick is a link to the AMS 2018 annual meeting program, where you can go and look by day, you can search by author, you can look at all the different things going on. And whether you're going or not, I think this is a useful tool. If you want to follow along on Twitter during the conference, that's a great way to do it, to kind of see who's speaking where. You can make your own wish list at, even at home or at work, wherever you may be, if you don't get to go. So anyway, that's my pick, and it's has all the abstracts. And at some point after the conference, several weeks after the conference, that'll also be the place where you could go and find the recorded presentations. So that's we always get questions about that, but most of the presentations are recorded, and that's where they'll be.
All right, thank you. That's a good site.
And
James,
don't forget there's the app too. There's the
don't forget
AMS
the app
that goes with it.
Yeah, James had a link to, his pick of the week was the EMC's GEFS plumes, and that's an interesting graphical way to represent them. And I don't have a pick, so I normally get the foghorn, but since James isn't here and I can't push the button remotely, I won't get the foghorn, thanks to James being AWOL. Well, actually, he's on television, so he's not AWOL completely. Maureen, thank you so much for being on the program with us, and thank your coworkers for us that allowed you to stay up later than usual.
Yes, one of them, it's her birthday tomorrow, and she's still working. So happy birthday to Mallory Nichols.
Oh, absolutely. That's terrible. She worked for you on her birthday. Wow.
She's working in the evening, but either way, thank you for having me. Very happy to be here and share some info about AMS.
I hope she doesn't hold you hostage for that sacrifice.
I hope not too.
Maybe you owe her one. All righty. Anybody else have any last minute pointers to bring up? Nope. Well, I think I heard the gavel on the digital mahogany conference table here. So we normally have WeatherBrains on Monday night from 8:30 p.m. Central Time. That's 9:30 Eastern Time, if I got my hours correctly there. And we are going to have some shows for the Christmas and New Year's breaks, but we're going to record them this week on Wednesday and Thursday, I believe. So if you want to watch live, you can always do that at live.bigbrainsmedia.com. So without further ado, we'll close this down and say thank you to everybody for being here tonight. I'm meteorologist Brian Peters. I am not James Spann because I have much more hair than he does. Y'all have a great evening. Good night. Thank you, guys.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
everybody.
much. Good night.
Talk to you later.
professional development, or something to do with professionalism, and why she came on our show, we don't know. But let's get this thing turned off, and we'll do our simulcast here. Hello, and how many people are watching? Five brave souls. So this is Song of the Night on Periscope and WeatherBrains on YouTube. We're going to sign off WeatherBrains. Thank you guys for watching tonight. Love having Maureen on the show. That was a lot of fun, and we'll see you guys. We're doing, by the way, 2 more shows this week. We're doing a Wednesday night and a Thursday night special. We're going to do the Christmas week show Wednesday night, New Year's week show Thursday nights. So it's going to be WeatherBrains, a party going on this week. So we'll see you guys Wednesday night on the WeatherBrains side. You'll have a great weekend, guys.